All right. A lot of people have been asking me my opinion about the Bethenny Frankel, Raquel, aka Rachel, aka Bambi-eyed B-word interview on Bethenny's podcast. Okay, I watched it. I listened to some of it. I was bored to tears. I've heard it all before. This is what I have to say about the whole thing. I have a lot to say about the whole thing, as I'm sure as I could see and I read the whole Bravo universe does. Bravo universe, reality TV universe, including Bethenny Frankel, who, despite the fact that she seems to have such low regard for reality TV, seems to have such low regard for all things Real Housewives, will never, ever, ever. What's up? Good to see you. Let's go. She never, ever, ever stops talking about it. It's like the Corleones. Like Michael Corleone said in The Godfather, once I am out, they pull me back in. Bethenny Frankel will not let go of the fact that she was a great Real Housewife, and she will always be known as a Real Housewife, despite the fact that she created a very, very, very successful brand. She will not let it go. Once she is out, she will not let them not pull her back in. Anyway, first of all, regarding Raquel, I'm going to call her Raquel, okay? Because that's what I got used to calling her. We don't know if she wants to be called Raquel. We don't know if she wants to be called Rachel. I learned about her as Raquel on the Vanderpump Rules. Great show. By the way, I am rewatching. Right now I'm at season 8.5. I have rewatched every single episode of Vanderpump. And if you like Vanderpump Rules and you've seen it all, do yourself a favor while we're waiting for season 11. Good to see you. Rewatch the entire series. It's beautiful. What a show. And when you rewatch it, knowing how they got to season 10, Scandival, it's just great on so many levels. And the brilliance of Stassi, the brilliance of Kristen Doty, who are obviously no longer in the cast, but allegedly are coming back in some way, shape, or form. You'll just appreciate it. But as far as this interview with Bethenny, Raquel, I've said that Raquel is, how do you say, I don't want to say the D word. I don't want to call her D. I don't want to call her S. I do not want to call her dumb or stupid. Let's just say she's not that articulate. Speaking isn't her strong suit. Stringing together sentences is not Raquel, aka Rachel, aka that Bambi-eyed B-word's strong suit. Listen, everybody's got their strong suits. I use a basketball analogy. I grew up playing basketball as left-handed. My strong suit was not jumping or running, hence why I never made it to the NBA. You got to be good at jumping and running if you want to be a good basketball player. That's just a fact. If you want to be good on podcasts, if you want to be good on reality shows, the best of the best are good at stringing together sentences. Hence Bethenny Frankel, hence Nene Leakes, hence the greats. Teresa Giudice, also not great at stringing together sentences that might be called traditional, but she pieces them together in a way that's very unique. I digress. The interview, Rachel, Bethenny, Raquel, she keeps talking about, well, the whole interview was set up by, let's talk about Bethenny. Bethenny is a Real Housewife. I refer to her, I gave her the moniker, the Michael Jordan of housewives, the greatest housewife of all time. With her recent take on her quote-unquote reality reckoning, we might have to give her the Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa of Housewives, because we might have to asterisk her from the Michael Rapaport Real Housewife Hall of Fame. Currently, I have Vicki Gunvalson, the OG of the OC, as number one, because this season of Orange County has been marvelous. I just want to celebrate for a second the ladies, Shannon, Taylor, all the women of Orange County. Great season. And Vicki coming back as good as she ever was, as good as she ever has been. But I once described Bethenny Frankel as the Michael Jordan of Housewives. Now that she shuns all things Housewives, again, we might have to remove her from the Housewife Hall of Fame. That's for another rant. That is for another rant. But what made Bethenny so great was her story. She started with nothing. When she got on reality TV, she had nothing. She was selling her frozen, I didn't even know what she was selling. What was it in the back of the supermarket? You guys know. What was she selling in the back of the supermarket? That lonely supermarket? Selling her food products. She was trying to do this. She was trying to do that. She lived in that apartment. And she talked trash so well. She was self-effacing. She was funny. We rooted for her. She was the every girl. And she attacked. She got attacked. What makes a good housewife, you have to be able to give it as good as you take it. And Bethenny gave it as good as she take it. She got successful. She got married. She got divorced. She had a little peanut. We watched it all. That's why she was the greatest. Not to say that Nene Leakes, people could say Nene might be the best. Some might say that Teresa Giudice is the best. Some might say that Vicki Gunvalson is the best. Some might even say Kyle Richards is the best, especially with the drama she's dealing with now. Again, I'm not doing my power rankings. I'm talking about the Bethenny/Raquel podcast, giving you a little context. Bethenny attacked. She called people names when she came back. When she became the Bethenny Frankel, she called Luann terrible things. She called Sonia terrible things. She called Ramona terrible things. She left. She decided to come back, despite the fact that now she's saying it's a toxic place. We all know Bethenny is not D. We know she's smart. So a smart woman, successful, with a $100 million business, decided to come back to reality TV. She decided to come back to reality TV knowing it is now what she calls toxic and they exploit people. Her words, that you get exploited doing reality TV. The brilliant Bethenny Frankel, who was able to create a $100 million business, was on the cover of Forbes, decided to come back to the Real Housewives of New York, knowing what she says is a toxic environment, an exploiting environment. That's context. That is what we call context. Now, this Bethenny Frankel podcast was set up because Bethenny, who has admitted that she never watched an episode of Vanderpump Rules, she never, ever spent time to actually see the person that she got on her podcast in action. She did not ever watch an episode of VP Vanderpump Rules, respectfully. Now, I have a podcast, a very successful podcast. You should check it out if you haven't. The I Am Rapaport Stereo podcast. I will be damned if I ever... Well, why would you want to interview somebody if you've never seen them in action? I have athletes, actors, directors on my podcast. I am heavily excited fans of theirs. And I've had opportunities to interview people that I'm not fans of that would bring me more listeners and more views. But I wouldn't want to do that because it wouldn't be honest for me. Anyway, Bethenny's never seen an episode of Vanderpump Rules. She obviously is very, very, very aware of what is going on Bravo, despite the fact that she shuns it and calls it toxic and an exploitive culture. She decided to have Raquel on her podcast, never seeing an episode of Vanderpump Rules, because she, Bethenny, wanted to give Raquel a voice. She wanted to give Raquel a voice. She wanted to let Raquel share her story, although we've seen her story. We've seen her story. She had a sit-down interview at the end of the reunion. She had a sit-down interview, one-on-one. She spilled the beans. She's got social media. She could create her own podcast. She could have went on anybody else's podcast. She could have created her own podcast and everybody would have watched it. The same way everybody watched Bethenny have Raquel on her podcast. Let's not forget, Bethenny was on Shark Tank. She wasn't selling things. She was one of the sharks. Bethenny, we could say this, that, and a third about Bethenny, but nobody is going to say she's not smart. She was on Shark Tank as one of the sharks. She is a shark. She knew, no matter how she contextualizes it, if she has Raquel, a.k.a. Rachel, a.k.a. that Bambi-eyed B-word, on her podcast, people are going to watch, despite the fact that she's never seen an episode of Vanderpump Rules. But she contextualized it as wanting to give Raquel a voice. She contextualized it that she wanted to let a girl share her story, although we've seen the story. We've heard the story. We know what happened. Listen, did she kill somebody? Did she commit any crimes? No. The reason why we're upset is because it's a show. She cheated. Sandoval cheated. Okay? They cheated. They're the villains on the show. Is it real life? No. Did they cross the line? Yes. Did things get out of hand with Lala, James Kennedy, and all them attacking her, calling her crazy things? Yes. Yes, 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 yes. But that's the show. That is the show. We, the fans, got upset because Lisa Vanderpump was trying to protect Sandoval, trying to calm things down, trying to contextualize things. Okay? That is a show. She's the bad guy. Sandoval's the bad guy, hence Scandoval. It's a great show. Lala took things too far. They all took things too far. The attacks publicly, but listen, that's neither here nor there. Bethenny had her on her podcast. Raquel can't string sentences together. Listen, I was in special education classes, not because I was not smart. I was there for behavioral reasons. In public school, I don't know if it's still the case, they put bad kids in special education classes. I rode the short bus. There was hot girls on the short bus, okay? I don't know if there's still hot girls on the short bus. There were girls that were pretty. There was my first girl, Elsie Rodriguez. She was on the short bus with me. A Puerto Rican girl from the Bronx, hot, like a mini J-Lo in the 9th grade. I believe it's possible that Raquel, a.k.a. Rachel, may have learning disabilities. Who knows? That's neither here nor there. The point is that Bethenny wanted to give her a voice on her podcast. Let's cut the crap. Bethenny wanted Rachel, a.k.a. Raquel, a.k.a. that Bambi-eyed B-word, on her podcast. Never seeing her on Vanderpump Rules. Never seeing her, never watching an episode. She wanted her on her podcast to have a very, 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 very successful podcast. That's why she had Raquel on her podcast. Bethenny had Raquel on her podcast because she wanted people to watch. And the more people that watch, the more money that Bethenny would make from the episode. I don't know how much money she has made off the episode. I don't know how much money she has made off of having it on YouTube, but I'm sure it's a lot of money. There's ad reads, there's this, that, and the third. It sets it up for more successful podcasts. It sets it up for more ad reads in the future. That's how it works. The more people that watch, the more money you make. It's a business. Podcasting is a business. YouTube is a business. The money didn't go to charity. The money went into Bethenny Frankel's pocket. She was on Shark Tank as one of the sharks. Raquel was talking about how she only made this amount of money and she made that amount of money. The big question is, and Bethenny talks. Bethenny is not shy. The big question is, well, if Vanderpump Rules, Bravo, reality TV is exploiting people, did you exploit Raquel by having her on her podcast? Did you exploit her for your own benefit? Did you exploit her for your own success? Did you exploit her to push your podcast? And because this has been a very successful podcast, monetarily, and you're talking about exploitation, have you shared the profits with Raquel? Raquel didn't need you to have a voice, Bethenny. Raquel could have went on social media and told her story. Raquel could have started her own podcast and made a lot of money. Trust me, there are people that would love to have Raquel, aka Rachel, aka Bambi B Word podcast. It would be successful, at least for the first episode, despite the fact that she can't string a bunch of sentences together. The question is, Bethenny, did you share profits with Raquel? Or did you exploit the exploited? Did you exploit the exploited, or did you share profits? That's the question that everybody wants to know. Because if you're so upset of the way reality TV stars are being treated, if it's so disturbing to you, I would imagine you would share the profits because you don't want to be exploiting the already allegedly exploited. That's really the question. Have you shared the profits? Have you shared the profits with Rachel, aka Raquel? Because Rachel, aka Raquel, aka that Bambi B word, she did not need you to share her story. She did not need you to tell her story. She's a big girl. She makes decisions, as we all know. She makes decisions, as we all know, albeit good ones or bad ones. But she is a big girl. You had her on your podcast, despite never seeing her in action, never seeing her on Vanderpump Rules, because you wanted a very, very successful podcast. And boom, it's been very, very successful. But have you shared the profits with Raquel, aka Rachel, aka that Bambi-eyed B word? That's the thing that we all want to know on the next episode of Bethenny's podcast.